Hello there. Today I'd like to talk about a more serious topic that has affected my life pretty deeply. And the topic is grade school bullying. Ooh. This is a difficult one. And I've spent years reversing the damage. I'm still reversing some of it. Basically, it started from the time I entered kindergarten. I never could seem to fit in, didn't make friends very easily. Top it off, for some reason, they decided to put me in the special education program, which made things 1,000 times worse. I think it was more of a dumping ground at the time. I don't know how it is today, but my perspective, looking back at my childhood, it was a dumping ground for all the kids that they couldn't teach easily, and it should have been for kids with learning disabilities, but a lot of these learning disabilities, they weren't actually learning disabled at all. They came from problems at home. And they shoved me in there with these kids that had problems at home, and they acted them out in the school system. They were unruly, they couldn't be controlled, so they put them in the special education system. These kids bullied me relentlessly. Oftentimes, most of the time, 5-1. Amazing, they could make friends with each other, and for some reason, I have no idea why it feels like I was always singled out. Some of the things I can remember they did to me out of the vast list, some of the more memorable ones were I had to look before I sat down one year, because every time I got up, they put thumbtacks in my seat face up. Every single time. One time, five of them, held me down and spread poison ivy all over my entire body. Gym class, I was the one picked last on the team every single time, and for some reason, they didn't want me on their team so bad that they spent the entire time pushing and shoving me and knocking me down every chance they can get instead of focusing on the game. And every time, of course, we lost, because instead of working as a team, me being a part of the team, they were more focused on beating the crap out of me, finding unique ways to put me down than they were on winning the game. And of course, then they blamed me at the end, and what did they do every time the teacher went? They'd punch or kick or push me. I didn't want to fight back. Well, I did, but a part of me didn't, because I didn't want to get in trouble. And God forbid I cause a problem, and then my parents find out, then I got to deal with that at home. If I told the teacher, I was called a tattletale, and then once the teacher's not looking, bam, I get hit, attacked again. This went on throughout my entire grade school process, mostly. From grades kindergarten through 3, mostly. What it did is, it tore me apart on the inside. No self-esteem, no sense of self-worth, nothing. And as the years went on, it got worse, especially the internal damage. There are, in the entire time I went to school, 3 teachers that I really look up to and admire. The first one was Miss Upham. I had her for 4th and 5th grade. And by the time I got there, she's the only person that recognized that I didn't belong in the special education program. I wasn't learning disabled. Oh, how about that? So I had her for both 4th and 5th grades. It took her a while, but by the end of the 5th grade, she was able to have me mainstreamed into a regular class with regular kids. I was mainstreamed into a 4th grade class, though I lost an entire year. Getting out of the special education program is the only time I ever cried tears of joy. I was ecstatic. I was so happy to be out of there and away from those assholes that pushed me around and bullied me all those years. But it's not over. Never is. Now that I was in 4th grade regular class, in the following grade, 5th grade regular classes with regular kids, I didn't know how to fit in. I was always looking over my shoulder, and these were good kids. They weren't bullies, but because of my previous experience and that being all I knew, I had shut down. I had already started to shut down by then. I became quiet, shy, doing anything I could to detract attention away from myself because I didn't want to get noticed. I didn't want to be the nail that stuck up that got hammered down. So I did what I could to try to become invisible. So this brings me to the second teacher I had who I admired, and that would have been Mr. Yule, who I had in the 5th grade. He could see that I was smart. He tried to push me to do better with my grades. I was probably a B, C, D student, not straight A's, hardly got A's. I did occasionally, but it was mostly B's and C's. He decided to shake me up. He gave me a D in my best subject, the only subject I got A's in, science, and he gave me a D because he knew I could do better, thinking it would wake me up. I didn't really care about my grades. It didn't have the effect, but I admire him because he probably knew me better than myself and what I was capable of better than myself. Both him and Miss Upham did. The problem was me and the crap that I went through, that I didn't think I could do it. I didn't have faith in myself. I didn't believe in myself, not after what I'd been through. So on I went into 6th grade, which was a mixture of everything. First year of middle school, first year of rotating classes and periods, and oh boy. A lot of those kids were good, and some of them were bullies, and I got picked on and targeted again at times. One incident completely ruined my ability to have meaningful relationships for a long time. Think about it. I'm in my early teens, first starting to notice women, attracted to women, and of all things, I still don't know why to this day, one of them showed interest in me. She wrote me a couple letters, which of course did pique my interest, but I also thought it could be a joke. Good things never happen to me. This has to be some sort of a joke. It's always a joke, a prank, a trick. So I didn't take it too seriously. Of course, the second letter got intercepted before I could read it, and it got intercepted by some bullies, and I got picked on, pushed around, and bullied. They were making fun of me out on recess, and one of the rare times I couldn't take it, I snapped. I took a swing at the nearest person in the group, wound up in a fist fight, beat the hell out of him, got dragged to the principal's office, explained that it was a rumor, it wasn't true, I didn't even know the girl, and at that point I didn't. And I guess it was a short time later, maybe a few days. This girl was in my gym class. She was in the girls' part of the gym class. I was in the guys' part, obviously. And the girls' gym teacher introduced us, and oh my God. She introduced us. I will never forget it. I looked into her eyes, and And my God, if she wasn't the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my entire life. It was one of those moments that takes your breath away, where time stood still. It felt like it lasted forever. I had never been attracted to anyone as much as I had in that moment, up to that time anyway. What happened after that, or during this, is I came back to reality. My class was on an assignment running in a circle around the diameter of the gym, and one of them stopped and pointed out that my shoelace was untied. So I bent down to tie it, and as I did, boom, here go all the negative thoughts. Boom. Can't go out with her. My parents already had the talk with me. Oh, you're too young, you'll only get hurt. That was my mom, because she had a relationship at an early age, and she got hurt. Looking back now, she was overprotective. Other thoughts, oh my God, this is the girl that they picked on and they bullied you over. There's no way you can go out with her. They're just going to do the same thing all over to you again. You're going to wind up in more fights. We can't have that. So I tied my shoe and I got up. I told her it was nice meeting her. I took back off with my class running around the gym. I thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. 6th grade came and went. 7th grade came and went. I'd see her around and I'd always be curious and wonder, but I never could work up the nerve to talk to her. And in 8th grade, I guess she was still interested. 2 guys tried desperately to get me to ask her out. 2 really good guys that I still admire. They never picked on me. They never bullied me. They were always very supportive of me. They were in my corner. But because of the way I was, all the damage that had been done to the bullying, I had even learned to keep them at a distance. I kept everyone at a distance. And they tried. They were absolutely right, those 2. I should have listened to them, and I didn't. I was afraid. Afraid because of everything that had happened to me. So then, one day, I was walking back from lunch, and she was about 10 paces ahead of me. I knew this. And a group of her friends and acquaintances, they surrounded me, which reminded me of how I got surrounded back in the 6th grade when I got picked on and bullied, that other fight that I had. And they asked me if I thought she was pretty. Of course she was. She was beautiful. But as much as I wanted to say that, as much as I wanted to admit that fear, it was there, and it was very real, and it stopped me. And I never could lie with a straight face. I've never been good at it. And even if I get away with it, I eventually get caught. I've learned to be honest. Honesty has always suited me well. This one time, one of the very few in my life, I lied, and I got away with it. I knew the expression on my face would have given it away, so I looked down so they couldn't read me. And I said no. And it was moments later, within a few seconds, that I'll never forget what she said. And I could hear the tears. I could hear her crying as she said it. She said, "Fine, be that way." And I knew I hurt her. And it was in that moment that I also hurt myself. I knew somehow, some way, we felt the exact same way about each other. without exchanging hardly any words. I don't know why, I can't explain it. But I do know I beat myself up over it. I beat myself up over it a lot. I didn't want to hurt anyone else that way, ever again. And I didn't want myself to hurt that way either. So, I did what I'd already been doing, only I did it harder. I buried my feelings. Told myself over, all I get. If someone finds out the way you feel, they'll only pick on you, they'll make fun of you. It's best not to have any, it's best not to have a heart. I began to live by the motto, real men don't have feelings, and if they do, they certainly do not talk about them. Emotions are for females, not men. I guess that's the second lie that I told. Probably the biggest lie I've ever told myself. So I spent, from the time I was 5 when I started getting picked on and bullied, till 33 when I had a breakdown and I couldn't bury the emotions any further. Burying my emotions. 28 years of burying them. You know what happens when you bury all the feelings, the good, the bad, all of it? Well, it's the biggest lie because you are feeling something. You're feeling pain, loss, sadness, rejection, worthlessness, and eventually anger, frustration, all turned completely fear, all turned 100% completely inward on yourself. And when you do that, there's only one possible conclusion: depression. God, can't let anyone know I'm depressed. Let's deny that too, which amplifies it. So, that was 6th grade. That was 6th to 8th grade. 9th grade, first year of high school. 15, started at 15. Somewhere by the time I was 16 in that year. Second half, I guess it was after my grandmother passed away in March, spring of that year. I hit my breaking point. I hit a breaking point. I couldn't take the pain anymore. I didn't want to be in school anymore. I was 16. What did I need that for? Drop out, get a job, be an adult, have a real life. None of these asshole kids bothering me anymore. School wasn't worth it. I got into a huge argument with my mom about dropping out of school, and she wouldn't let me. Fine. So what did I do? I went up to my room, and I wrote a suicide note. And I sat. My bedroom was on the 2nd story of the house. I opened the window, I crawled out to the edge, and I stood there looking down at the driveway below, which was solid pavement. I thought to myself, I'll jump fast, I'll jump hard, I'll jump head first. I'll smash my skull in, it'll be over. No more me, no more pain, no more suffering. I was about to do it, and one final thought. Who would have thought negative emotions would save you from killing yourself? Well, one of them did. I had one more thought, and if there is a God, that is the God that put it there. You are such a fuck up. What if you fuck this up too? What if you don't die? What if you break your neck and you wind up paralyzed from the neck down, and having other people take care of you for the rest of your miserable life, not being able to move or do anything? The thought of that was more painful than the death that I seeked. If I couldn't make it a clean death, was it really worth it? So I stepped back inside the window, I burned the suicide note. Back to school, now feeling worse than ever. Probably would have been a matter of time before I found some other way. Then something else happened. This brings me to the third teacher who was a major influence in my life growing up. I was a Latin student. I took Latin because I wanted a challenge. I was still challenging myself. Life was a challenge. Getting up in the morning was a challenge. Challenge kept me going. Challenge has always kept me going. Challenge still keeps me going. So, I took Latin. And I had this amazing Latin teacher, Dr. Greenberger. Well, I didn't do so good in Doc's class, to be honest. I was a horrible student. He had my parents come in for parent-teacher night, and he said, look, here's the homework assignment book. If I turn it sideways, where your kid's name is, it looks like bubbles in a fish tank from all the zeros, because he didn't complete any homework assignments. I've never believed in homework. I still don't. If teachers did their job, I wouldn't have any. At least that was my thought. I was the type of person that when I wanted a job, I go to work, and I don't bring my work home with me. So I saw no point in homework. It irritated me. I hated school. I hated doing the work. Why would I want to come home and do more of it? It was punishment. So it was. School felt like a prison to me the entire time. So, getting back to Doc Greenberger, by looking at me and observing me in class, he realized that I was depressed. He called my parents in. He had a conference with them and told them that. What did my parents do? They took me to a therapist, to a social worker. And you know what that did? And this is how I learned. You can do everything you can to help someone. But in the end, you can't. All you can do is leave the door open. You can't help them. I know this because I was the kid that they tried to help. I wasn't ready. I definitely wasn't ready. They sent me to the therapist, and what did I learn from that experience? Oh my God, someone figured out that I'm depressed. I guess I haven't been burying it deep enough. Go figure. Well, my parents would attend the sessions with me. Therapist would get me to try to open up and talk about my feelings, which of course I wouldn't. Oh, I don't know. I don't feel anything. Totally numb. Lying through my teeth because I didn't want to talk about my feelings. But I had also just lost my grandmother. Someone who I did consider being close to me. It was a terrible loss. I missed her. But I wasn't going to talk to the therapist about that either. Instead, I realized, it wasn't just my parents taking me in at some point. It was my mom. My dad was busy with work and stuff. It became so easy to pawn off those therapy sessions on my mom, who was hurting because she lost her mom. Clammed up, never said anything, pretended to get better, buried it deeper. Pretty soon, no more counseling sessions. I'm fine, I'm healed, I'm great. I became good at lying about my emotional state to everyone else and myself, putting up walls so I couldn't let people in. This is great. Can't have a broken heart because no one can get to it. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Then there were a few people that eventually saw through my bullshit. Some of it, not all of it, just enough of it that I let them in to become my friends, but I still kept them at a distance. One of them is currently one of my best friends, Eric Moss. Him and his family have been so good to me over the years. There's not a damn thing that I wouldn't do for them if I could, whenever they need my help. And I think they know that. Wow. When I had problems with my first apartment and had to leave, they took me in so I wouldn't be homeless because I didn't want to live back home. I couldn't. The rooms got switched around. I had no place there, really. I would have been sleeping, crashing on a couch. So I chose to crash on Eric's couch instead with his family. That's another whole story, though. I should get back to the bullying and how it affected me. So, let's see, where was I? Yeah, burying all my emotions. So, most people, they would have been out, most guys would have been out meeting girls, dating in their mid to late teens, 20s, 30s. All those years went by. From the time I was 5 to the time I was 33, where I buried my emotions, built up walls, kept people out, made myself miserable and depressed over it. I let it get to me. Part of it was that, yeah, I have a heart. I'm sensitive. Of course, I didn't realize that. If I weren't sensitive, none of it would have ever affected me, but I am. So it was a bit of a curse in that way, that the bullying affected me that deeply. However, now it's a blessing because I understand my feelings and that level of sensitivity. I can empathize with other people who are the same way, and there are quite a lot of them. But anyway, I continued to hold all this in till I was 33 years old. Almost 34. And I had a talk with a childhood friend about a boyfriend she broke up with. Just by chance, when I'm talking with her. Our parents, best friends, so I'm an auto mechanic. I was doing a side job on her van, and her daughter, who's the same age as me, was home, and we started talking and having some conversations, and one of them, she was telling me about this breakup, and part of my way of putting up walls was never to look people in the eye when talking with them. And I screwed up. One slip up. At least I thought I could have buried my emotions forever. As we were talking, I looked up for just a split second, not even a fraction of a second. And when I saw the look in her eyes, boom, my whole world collapsed. The entirety of it. Because what I saw in her eyes was the same look I had in my own eyes when I woke up and saw myself in the mirror every single morning. And I didn't know why, I didn't know how. Understandably, she has a broken heart. Now I understand that. Now I know that. But the real question was, why do I have one? I never put myself out there. I never allowed anyone in. How? They say it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Well, I had to test that. I found that out the hard way, because when you don't love, when you don't put it out there, you essentially wind up living with a broken heart without anyone ever breaking it. You've broken it yourself by doing that. God. I also say no man is an island. To me, that was a challenge. I was going to be the fucking island. I failed in that mission miserably. So yeah. Long story short, because I've already spent almost a half an hour making this video, because I want to tell my story. I want to get it out there. Long story short, after that conversation, when I realized what I had done to myself, couldn't bury the depression anymore, couldn't bury the pain. Now I wasn't suffering from just depression, I was suffering from anxiety because I knew I would be forced to live with this the rest of my life. I had three choices at this point. 1, live with this the rest of my life. 2, suicide again. Cut my life short. End the pain. Coincidentally, the first time I was in counseling, the reason it saved me is because I realized that at least my parents cared about me, and I didn't want to hurt them, which is why suicide was off the table. I made a promise to myself I would never do that again. And here I was thinking about it. But I also remembered my promise, so I'm like, yeah, that's a little sketchy, I can't do that. And then there was a third choice, a third option, which was really the most frightening. I'm going to have to give counseling another shot. Oh my God, I'm going to have to talk about my feelings. Oh my God, I have them. Thankfully, I took that third option with a therapist. Within a year, I completely turned my life around. I moved out of my mom's house. My parents were divorced by this time for probably almost a decade. No, half a decade? I don't know. Quite a long time. So, I moved out of my mom's house into my first apartment. Things were going great. I started learning about myself, connecting with my emotions, connecting and communicating with people. I'm still struggling with a lot of this stuff, but it's getting better, it's getting easier. I eventually did meet a girl, had a relationship for 4 years, and she got into drugs and she passed away from an overdose 2 years ago. I was back in that depressed state, which the grieving process is finally over. I'm doing a lot better now. Those are the major points of my life, but mostly it was the bullying that affected me. It stunted my growth. And, it's funny. I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want my life changed. That horrible experience was also the best experience of my life because I learned so much about myself that I never would have known had I not been put through the pain. Along my recovery process, I also found that I had a very deeply spiritual side which awakened that I was never aware of. I don't think it could have awakened any other way than through the extreme experience of pain that I suffered. So many positives came out of the recovery from it. And now, it's a big thing they talk about, anti-bullying and all this in the schools, and they're missing the whole point. They're missing the most effective way of stopping this. And it's so, so simple. Because of the recovery process that I went to, the things that I do to calm my mind and to find inner peace now, those are the same things that'll work that need to be taught in school from an early age. If I had known that from an early age, I could have avoided all this pain and suffering. My life would have been different. I wouldn't have been bullied. Not just because I would have been different from all these from these practices. The bullies themselves would have been changed too. This goes across the board. It's something every kid, every student should know. The bullied and the bully are two sides of the same coin, both suffering. The one who is bullied fears the bully, fears standing up for himself, fears getting in trouble, and is insecure in himself to be able to handle it, and so he is bullied. The bully is afraid of being insignificant and empowers himself by disempowering others. Both of these things come from a deep set of fear. Bully, fear of insignificance. Beat down others to empower himself, to make himself look good. And the one who's bullied fear of getting in trouble, fear of getting the bully in trouble. Because if he gets the bully in trouble, the bully's going to come back after him and he'll be in more trouble. Endless loop, which for the bullied ends up in an endless loop of self-victimization, which is what I was doing. I made myself the victim. I was a victim, and then I was making myself the victim on top of it. So, getting back to how do we fix this? The school systems need to adopt mindfulness practices. It's that simple. Very simple. Because my spiritual side opened the day I taught myself to meditate. Meditation practices. Kids should be taught meditation. How to empty their thoughts, how to empty their minds. How to read their bodies, their feelings, their emotions. And to cope with them appropriately. How to overcome fear without putting people down. At connecting the mind with the body. Yoga should be part of every gym curriculum. Mindfulness practices, yoga and meditation. Adopt those two philosophies into the school system. They're both for every student. Those who are victimized and for the bullies. The bullies understanding their own emotions and why they do what they do. If they realized how much they were hurting themselves when they hurt others. Because trust me, whenever you hurt someone else, you're hurting yourself too. They would change if they understood the magnitude of that, which can be taught through meditation and mindfulness and reading your own thoughts and feelings. Those who are victimized would have the strength to stand up for themselves, to realize, I'm not worthless. I think you'd find a balance between the two, a balance and a respect. That's the answer. I'm a strong proponent of teaching mindfulness practices in schools, from grade school through high school, from the earliest levels to the latest. Kids' minds are much more malleable than our own, and as adults, they learn things faster. You want to change the world? Start there. If the kids are more mindful and respecting of one another, and understanding of the consequences of their actions from an early age, they're more likely to grow up to be productive, successful members of society at a later age. Respect for themselves and others as themselves, to be able to see others as themselves, reflections of the same whole. There are, of course, a lot of people that would object. Religious values might go against it, family values, a lot to work through, but unless this system is adopted, the world will never change. It's a shame, because as much as there is wrong with this world, there is so much that could be right, that could be better. And there's so much more I could say on these topics, but I think I've covered the bullying aspect and everything I know and everything I feel about it to the larger degree at this point. So that's the answer. I was bullied. That's how it affected me. And in my opinion, that's what is going to change the system so it doesn't happen for others. And I'm going to post this on my YouTube channel. And it's long, and I doubt anyone will want to watch it. But I'm going to post it anyway, because if I can help just a few people realize these same things, if this video gets shared, then maybe it'll reach the right people, or enough people that it might make a lasting difference. You might realize, wow, he's actually right. Don't know, can't guarantee, but I'm going to put this out there and hope for the best. So everyone knows, my life is actually pretty good right now, and it's only getting better. Although I've been bullied, that's in my past. I don't have to let it affect my present or my future. but I would love for the story to be able to change other people's lives so they don't have to suffer as I did.